Here it is once again, the Fisch Racing Lexus IS300, sitting here today, prepped for just about anything the street or track could throw at it. 1UZ V8 under the hood with nitrous, 6-speed 350Z gearbox, and a whole lot of competition awaiting its arrival at the track. Now, after discovering a couple months ago it's not the easiest car to learn the art of drifting in, I figured it couldn't hurt to see what it's like out here on public roads, because it has plates, and that must mean street legal.
I remember being closer last time. Maybe I'm surprised I was even able to drive it, to be honest. So, first off, fixed seat. So I cannot move this seat. It's built for Henry at Fisch Racing, and he's a little bit taller than me. So I kind of have to lean back to be able to actually get the clutch in all the way, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. And then right behind me, this trusty Nitrous Express bottle back here with good old nitrous oxide. It's got a wet shot, which means it is spraying both fuel and nitrous into the intake manifold versus direct injection, which can be wet or dry, but instead of using a separate nitrous injection system alongside the factory injectors. And that brings it up to 380 wheel horsepower. That's effectively what has happened here. Let's give her the beans. So nitrous hits. It's basically on a switch or solenoid, and it activates. Nitrous will be spraying into the intake manifold above 90% throttle, above 4,000 RPM. So very specific parameters here. But it's way better. It's way better. That in combination with the 1UZ's VVTi that's already there, improving torque and efficiency. What we have Okay, you guys, round 2. Batteries died on that last run, and I am wearing a different shirt, I'm pretty sure. And now, actually, too, I'm wearing a Fisch Racing hat, but it's a different day, and I'm gonna go for another quick rip. That previous run, if you weren't able to hear me, was in fact my first time ever using nitrous. Now, of course, in the past, if you've watched any kind of, you know, motorsports-inspired pop culture movie, The Fast and the Furious, you would have this notion in your mind of what nitrous should feel like, what you're expecting. It's a very kind of mystical thing in the modified car world if you're not familiar with drag racing, or if you're up here in Canada and you don't have access to as many tracks. Maybe you just weren't exposed to nitrous at a younger age, such as myself.
Too soon, Junior.
Right behind the 1UZ is a 6-speed CDOA or CDO9 350Z transmission. It's a 6-speed gearbox. This was a used transmission when they put this in here. This is really cool. The IS platform, like, I went online recently and looked at ISs, and you can snatch them up for anywhere between $4,000 and $5,000 all day long for an Altezza imported from Japan, which will be legal very soon for you folks down in the States. And it being one of the best looking, in my opinion, era correct, or one of the last kind of the analog era, really good looking 4-door sedans that you can fit your friends. Oh wait, no. You can't fit your friends in this one because there's nitrous. But in a normal IS, if you started from the ground up, you'd be able to have essentially a drift taxi, but that's not what Henry and the guys at Fisch Racing have built here. What they've built, well, is a competition car. So no more nitrous on this run. This is a pair, or it's a triple threat, really. It's taking the essence of Toyota, an incredibly reliable Toyota V8 engine, which for 6 days of the week would be used for this drifting, or otherwise on the 7th day it would have just been left in the LS400 to take your grandma to church. And that's kind of cool to me, that now when you look at Toyota's lineup of engines that they were making back then, the use case for a lot of these parts are all coming together into one package. Gearing on the CDO9. It's a lovely shifter though. I mean, it's a factory bottom end 1UZ. Okay, yes, injectors have been done. It's running right now on 60% ethanol. And of course, a little bit of head work's been done. And Fisch Racing basically created the transmission cross member, made their own exhaust manifolds to fit, so there was actually room for it, and there you go. There you have a 400 horsepower race car. The thing I love most about it though is the raw intake sound, and this is what a lot of drifters and even track racers try to get out of cars like an NA Miata, you know, when you go ITBs or something to that effect. You hear that partial throttle, you hear the throttle body open just a little bit. There's a nice squeak there. So when you look at all of these parts on paper, a 350Z transmission, 350Z, like a $7,000 to $10,000 car right now, and then you have the 1UZ coming out of an LS400 or a number of other luxury Toyota products. Again, incredibly cheap, easy to access parts, and then the IS itself, another incredibly easy to access and simple chassis of a car. Parts are really easy to come by. So on paper, it's not an exotic drift car the way something like an V8-swapped S chassis, S15, or something like that, right? Or a Chaser, or something that's a little bit tougher to get your hands on, a little bit less known here in North America, but there's nothing basic about what the sum of all these parts has accumulated to here. There's absolutely no car I've driven in my entire life that feels like this. It's just super cool. I've driven a couple of LS swapped cars, and for whatever reason, they feel a little bit less responsive, a little bit lazier, I guess you could say. Now, I don't know if that's to do with the displacement, the much smaller 4-liter displacement here, but doing it in such a way where Fisch Racing is going on, and their plan is to basically revolutionize the customizability of a home-built turnkey drift car for competition. Exactly, this is what that is. This is a showcase of the beginning of what they're going to do down the line. It is paired with a Serial 9 shifter relocation kit for the CD09. And then of course you've got your hydro e-brake setup, which Fisch Racing also has built. Now it is a little bit of a handful. It still has light IS steering, which is good on the track. It's lacking a little bit in feel on center, so I mean, it's a drift car though. On the street here, still got enough feel, but it still has a few of those IS characteristics. Fisch Racing originally built this car for grid life to compete in competition, to drive in competition with one of their sponsored drivers. Only slightly sketchy on the street here. Only slightly sketchy. I don't know if this is spoilers, but they plan on putting a supercharger on this IS, which I think is a wonderful idea. It'll keep that awesome throttle response. Which brings me to another point. This is the IS, this is the ISF before the ISF. This is an analog ISF. If Lexus would have had the resources or the willpower to create an ISF a few years earlier, before all of those electronics that, although it being a Lexus, they probably will be somewhat reliable. This would be it. This would be that car, because it still has an incredibly responsive engine, a big V8, just like the ISF has. But this is just, it has more feel to it. I mean, those cars, of course, were not offered in a manual. And hey, maybe that's another use case scenario for the CD swap kit. Maybe you take the V8 that's in those cars, the 5.0, and start manual swapping those cars. I mean, you guys tell me, would you be down for a daily drivable ISF with a manual? It's a little bit more raw, but the point is, this weighs nothing. I think Henry, hell, if I had to guess, what is an IS300 factory? If it's got the 2J, I believe they're just over 3,100 pounds. We're gonna try and pass this police officer. If you take into consideration what's been removed here, this probably weighs somewhere in the ballpark of 27, maybe 2,800 pounds. I don't know if this police officer behind me is running my plates right now. I mean, Henry, did you put the plates on? Do I even have a rear plate on the vehicle right now? God, YouTube problems. I guess I should have probably asked Henry this before I took the car out. Anyways, thanks guys so much for watching. Hit me up on Instagram if you haven't already, at Roads Untraveled. You can hit up Fisch Racing Tech on Instagram as well, fischracing.com, if you want to go check out all the products they have. Wow. We just went on an extended street drive in a race car. And we did not get pinched. Thank you, whoever that officer was behind me for like 15 minutes, who decided not to pull me over and take the car and or take my license. So, more videos to come.